Hello and welcome back to this video. In our previous video, we were able to demonstrate how to use if statements, elif statements, and with the else statement, right? So now, in this video, we are going to be looking at loops. And to loop is like to go over a series of items. So you have a line of item and then you are moving from one item to the other, performing a particular action on them. Now, we already have two items here, two lists and a dictionary here. So I guess we are just going to use this list and dictionaries again. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to comment all of this out and I'm going to move those lists and dictionaries down here. So I'm going to move them down so that we'll be able to reuse them. So now, how do we write our loops? So you remember that when we did indentation, we said that when we are writing a block of code, one thing that is common to all of them is that we indent the codes. So when we are writing our if statement, we write the statement and then the rest of every other thing we did here, we indented. And when we wrote the elif statement, every other thing we had here was indented. So that is how it is also with our for loops. So now, how do this for loop work? Now, the one we did before, we did it a bit in a dictionary comprehension and we wrote all of them within a single line. But this is a standard for loop and we are going to write it the normal way. So how do we write our loops? Now, there are two types of loops. We have the for loop and the while loop. And I'm going to write them in a comment and we are going to have our types of loops. So the first one is for loops and the second one is while loops. So we are going to be starting with the for loop. So how do we write a for loop? Well, the way to write it is no other way than to just write the keyword for. So when you write your keyword, you will now declare a variable. So it could be anything. It could be A, B, C, or a word, right? So I'm going to write a variable that I'm going to associate with every member of that list or that iterable that I want to go over. So now I'm going to call it anything. I could say for item, or I can call it for X, I can call it for Y, anything I like. So, and this, what will happen is that Python will take each member of this iterable as Y. So Shakespeare is going to be Y, Christian author is going to be Y, diet guide is going to be Y. So each and every one of them, Python will see them as Y, right? And it will now perform a certain action on each and every one of them, right? So that is how this works. So I'll write for Y in, so we remember our membership operation, but then this time around, it works with this for loop, okay? So for Y in, I will now pass the name of that iterable. So I will now say list of books and I'll write my semicolon. So what do I want to do on each and every member of them? So what I want to do is that I want to convert all of them to capital letters. So what I'm going to do is I'll just say y dot. So you can see that Python has already seen that everything here, that all of them are string, right? So I'm going to write dot upper. So, and I'm going to close it. So if you run this program now, nothing is going to come out on the screen unless you print it. So the capitalization has taken place, but if you want it to come out, you have to print it. So how do you print it? You either write print alongside this on the same line and close it in that bracket, or you set it to a variable and print that variable. And that is basically it. I call it uppercase is equals that. So how do I see that anything has happened? I will now print the uppercase. Right. So I could also decide to do something else to do uppercase again. So I can decide that, okay, after I change it to uppercase, I want to do something else. So what will happen is that right now, everything has been changed to uppercase. So I might decide to do something else by adding something else to the text after I capitalize it. So I'm going to create another variable at the top and add a particular text, right? So maybe I'll just call it string because it's just a piece of text. And I'm going to say is a type of book or is a category of book. So now I will now pass in this string here. So now I will now pass in this string here so that it can print all of them on the same line. So you will see that if we run this, it will just print for every one of this. It will it will print all of them in a capital case, and then with this string here is a is a category of book. So I'm going to save and run. So now you see Shakespeare is a category of book, Christian authors is a category of book, diet guide is a cat, and that is just it. So that is a simple illustration of what a for loop can do for you. So now, if for instance I want to work with this list, I can write another for loop for it. So I can say for this time around, say price in book prices. So you can see that this time around, I just used price. So you don't need to use something so special. Just find the word for it and then you use it. So what do I want to do? I would just say, so remember that you are assessing all of them. So what do I want to do? I want to square all of them. We want to use the math module. Remember that we have worked with the math module before. So we can either import it at the top, or in order not to waste our time, we can just import math module here. So math. So we're going to write math.power to power 2. And what do we want to square like that? We want to square the prices. So I'm just trying to use some of the methods we have used so that you can see how you can dynamically manipulate the data and with the methods that we have used. Okay. So, and I'm going to save this. So this time around, okay, this second for loop is not printing. So we are going to set this to another variable, or we are just going to print it directly. So we are going to print this directly and we are going to save. So this time around, we are going to do all of that together. Okay, so we are having this because we are doing this wrongly. So it's supposed to be a, that is price, to the power of 2, right? So let's say to the power of 2, and I'm going to clear the terminal and I'll run this again. So let's run it again. So we have the correct value. So we have all the prices raised to the power of 2. Okay. Oh, okay, that's a wrong spelling. So now this is one way you can work with for loop. Okay, so we can also work with the dictionary, and so I can say for X in book and prices. So what do I want to print? So I'm going to print, so prices, book prices dot key. So remember dot keys method to get all the keys, and book prices dot value. So we can also print them in another way. We can print book prices dot items, or better still, we can come here and set a variable that will split the keys and the values. So we can say that item is equals book prices dot key comma book sorry dot keys comma and then book prices dot values, right? So and I will now come here and print item. So you will see that it will split all of them in each cases into the keys and the values. So I'll come and print item. So this time around I'm going to save and let's run everything. Okay, we are seeing this because we are not calling the function. So I'm going to correct this now. So sorry about that. So we are to put this parenthesis so that we will be calling the keys function. So I'm going to save. So sorry. So I'm going to save this and run. So this time around we should have our correct data. Okay, so now we have the dictionary data on the screen. So the next item we are going to look at is that we are going to be looking at while loops. So before we do that, I'm going to comment this out so that we won't have multiple things on the screen. So what we can do, so what is a while loop? Well, while loop also, just like for loops, goes over a list of items. But first of all, before it goes over that list of items or an iterable, is to first of all check whether the condition is met, right? Now, I'm going to initiate a counter to 0, right? So, and I'll write a while loop. So I'm going to write while count is less than 10, right? So as far as the value of this count here is less than 10, what do? I will just print count. But before this while loop goes up, you need to increase the count. Okay, so you need to increase the value of count so that it will now come back and print the current value of count. So the first time count is 0, the second time count is going to be 1. So for count to be 1, I have to just say count plus equals to 1, right? So what we are doing is that each time we are incrementing count by 1. So I'm going to run this. So the reason we have to increment this count is because this condition is true. So you can see count is equal to 0 and 0 is less than 10, and we are printing count. So if you do not increase count after this statement runs each time, Python will just keep printing count for you, right? Because this condition is true, count is less than 10. So but each time you increase it by 1, count will increase, and then it will keep increasing till 9 here. And by that time, it will no longer increase, and then count will not print again. Okay, now this is one demonstration of while loop. So another way we can demonstrate this while loop is by looping over an iterable, right? So we can loop over this our list, that is list of books, and the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to initialize another variable x and set it to 0, and then I'll write my while loop. So, and I'm going to say that yx is less than the length of this my variable list of books, right? Then I'll print the individual item that is in that list of books. So I'm going to print list of books, and I'm going to pass in x. So now remember that x is an integer and the indexes of list of books is x. So and the first value of x is 0 and the first index of list of books is 0. So right here, you know that what we are doing is indexing, right? So now remember that we have to increment it. So I'm just going to write x plus equals 1, and by so doing, we are incrementing x to 1 and then to 2 and then to 3 for every loop. Now remember that the last member of that length is not going to print, right? So that is 4, because the length of list of book is 4. So it's going to print index 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So I'm going to clear the terminal, and then I will save this and run. And now we have all the members of the list of books on our screen, and I'll clear. Now we are going to create another while loop, and what we are going to do is that we are going to set a variable called input, not the normal input that we know, but I'm just going to write it inpt and set it to nothing. And then I'm going to write my while loop. So I'm going to say that while input is not equals a string end. So I want the value of input to be an input field that says type in something to end the loop. So I'm going to comment the other loops out, and I'm going to come down here, save and run. So now it says type in something to end the loop. So the computer will keep expecting us to type in something, and if what you typed in is not end, the loop will keep running. So I'm going to type this in, keeps telling you type in something to end the loop. So this will keep running, right? So if I keep typing in rubbish, it will keep running. So until I type in end, the loop will stop. Do you understand? So now, so until a condition is met, or as far as a condition is true, the while loop keeps running. So, but when it gets to a stated condition, it breaks the loop. So this is it for for loops and while loops. And in our next video, we are going to be looking at loop control statements. That is how to control your loops, how to control your while loops, and not write an infinite loop. So if, for instance, an infinite loop is a loop that doesn't have a condition that stops it. Now, if, for instance, let me comment this and let me run the first loop that we have that says y count is equal 0, and I don't increment count here, right? So you find out that this is going to be an infinite loop, and because the value of count remains 0, and as far as the value of count is not increasing or does not get to 10, this loop will keep running. All right, so I'm going to run this now. You see, 0 will keep printing till infinity. 0 will just keep printing. So I'm going to break this loop by pressing Ctrl C. If not, this loop will keep printing. This 0 will keep printing. So now this is a basic demonstration of how to use for loop and while loop. Right? So see you in the next video where we are going to continue with loop control statements.